I'm sure you heard me, didn't you? I'll welcome you again. Welcome everyone to our meeting tonight. The public is advised that it is council policy to record the proceedings of meetings of council on digital media to assist in the preparation of minutes and to ensure that a true and accurate account of debate and discussion of meetings is available. The audio recording is authorised by the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations in 2015. I would like to begin by acknowledging country. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Tomagina people, and to pay our respect to those that have passed before us, their history and their culture. Record of attendance, we have a full complement of councillors tonight. No apologies and leave of absence, nil has been received. Confirmation of the previous minutes. I have a recommendation before us about the previous minutes. I ask, could I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Bramich, could I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Courtney. Are there any amendments to the minutes that need to be brought to the table tonight?
Yeah, I asked 3 questions without notice and only one's in the agenda tonight.
Right, okay, so...
Through Mayor, we can go back and have a look at that, Councillor Courtney, but a reminder, if the question was answered on the night, it wouldn't be recorded in the minutes. So if a question without notice is asked and responded to, that's not noted. It's the questions that require follow-up or further action are noted in the minutes. So I suspect, without looking, I'd go back and check, but I suspect that's the reason why.
Okay, you happy with that response, Councillor Courtney?
I think one was that I asked for a workshop, so I just wondered whether that would actually be a formal response to say, yep, and this is when the workshop's going to occur. And I asked about the res zones, whether we were actually given information that we had been determined to be a res zone.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any other further amendments that need to be recorded? If there are no amendments, I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. Item 3, declarations of interest. Any councillor that is going to declare an interest or staff? Deputy Mayor Edwards.
Yeah, 8.1 and 19.1.
Thank you. Any staff member? No, obviously not. So, moving on. Councillors' announcements and report announcements by the Mayor. I have 2 announcements tonight. The Australia Day ceremony held in Guttridge Gardens was a great success, with several new citizens receiving their certificates of Australian citizenship. The Australia Day Ambassador, Vicky Purnell, OAM, spoke about her advocacy role for women and children and her passion about bringing attention to women's health challenges, particularly ovarian and gynecological cancers, that many still find challenging to talk about. This ceremony was followed by the Australia Day Family Fun Day, hosted by both Waratah Wynyard Council and Rotary Club of Somerset, who successfully secured $20,000 from the National Australia Day Council to fund this event. Review of the second local government reform document has been completed by this council and submitted on Friday. A copy of Waratah Wynyard Council's submission will be placed on the agenda of the next council meeting in March. I have a recommendation before you that the council note the Mayor's communications. Could I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Hyland, seconded.
Seconded.
Councillor Roberts. Are there any queries regarding the diary, my diary? Okay, so that means that I can put forward the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against? Obviously not, so I thank you. I put the motion, carried unanimously. Notification of council workshops. There is a recommendation there for council to note the following workshops. Could I Councillor Courtney, could I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Councillor Bramich. Are there any queries or comments about those workshops? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. Councillor attendance records. There is a list there of all of the records of our attendances. So, do we move that one? No. Public questions and statements. Point 5. We have a question from Mr. Hutchison and a response, an officer's response. We have a second question from Mr. Hutchison, outstanding questions, and there is an officer's response there as well. 5.2.1, we have another 5.2, public questions received in writing, and Mr. Powell, Powerhouse Loop Rehabilitation, he has asked the question and there is an officer's response there. So we now move on to public questions and statements without notice. The Council encourages community participation in its meetings through the opportunity for public questions and statements. Consistent with the Council's core values, councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with respect and integrity. We expect our residents and ratepayers to apply similar standards in their dealings with Council. As Mayor, it is my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of Council meetings and to determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to the use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. I ask members of the public to show proper consideration and courtesy in their comments. So, Mr. Austin, you have a question.
I asked a question last year about motorbike parking in Wynyard, and I had no responses to that question.
Well, I'll get the General Manager to make a comment to you about that. Thank you.
I certainly recall you turning up and making that, and clearly by your return tonight means the work hasn't been completed. Look, the simple answer is I'm not quite sure where that's at, but I'm certainly happy to follow that up and find out and get back to you.
Yep.
We have, I guess, got a number of related projects that are now on the go. We've been asked to, I guess, look at our traffic layout up the main street, if
Yep.
you like, and the nature of the parking spaces, and are they large enough, and the look at, so that we'll explore that. We're also doing a review of our transport service level document as well. So they're all probably interrelated,
Yep.
but I'm certainly happy to take it on board
Yep.
and find out and get back to you.
Thank you very much.
Simeon Cooper, would you like to come forward? You have a statement.
Thank you. Just by the way, I'm not opposing this Dart Street survey at all. I was just more of a question as the business owners there at Bruce's, my partner Themi. Obviously it says that it should liaise with the business owners there. I don't believe anyone's reached out to us to talk to us. Experience with the Burnie Council at the foreshore, that causes more issues if you go and do something without liaising with it. So yeah, that was just a basic thing. And also I thought we should raise that there are discussions that we may develop the business with Rod Walker down the track. So what you look to implement now might be wrong for the future. So I thought just good to raise that.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for attending. I'm happy to just provide a reply if you like. So my read of the motion before Council tonight is to start the process, so not necessarily to, that process by no means has commenced at this point in time. So certainly not as part of this motion. So perhaps it might be in relation to other projects or other parts of the other programs and so forth, but not as a result of this motion per se. So should this motion go through tonight, that traffic survey, the consultation, all that will commence from that point. So rest assured, you would be a key contributor to that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Mr. Ewington, would you like to come forward? You have both statement and question for us tonight?
How we going? Hear me? All good? Get me notes ready. My statement tonight is about the management of the environment within the rural community. I would like to talk about the road verges within that community. My experience in management of road verges is I ran a slashing and verge mowing contracting business throughout my working life. I've done various contracts for the state government and for the many councils. The goals: to clean the road edges of the long grass and vermin, rubbish or bracken, to create a good fire break in case of a fire. Create good visual for roads, for corners in the country areas, so there's not long grass or undergrowth growing, and to affect vision, especially in in gravel roads, etc. Also control spread of weeds, because the person who is operating the machine is supposed to identify the weeds, mark them, and then report to management for them to spray and attend to. The contractor who used to do this work, he also trimmed the hedges and the sides of the banks to which contain them from encroaching on the road, which is an important thing. Create a total road visual effect. There is two types of slashers and verge mowers. There's a flail design, and there's a slasher design. The flail design is a rotating head with various number of cutting blades on it. It is designed to cut long grass. That's it. A slasher head is a rotating disc with three large slashing blades on it, which is designed to cut saplings and unstable ground like rocks and all, uneven ground, and a more robust type of machine. The slashing contractor was put out every 3 or 4 years, and the lowest price got the job. They gave a good, efficient price because they competed against other contractors. They would put a 10 to 12 hour day on site, and they would stick out from day in, day out, which in turn you'd have a quick coverage of the road verges. They were professional in their industry. They knew what they were doing, and they did good work. Due to their wisdom of the council, council decided to take on this task of doing it in-house. This is concerning. Firstly, the flail type slasher is not designed for doing country road verges, full stop. It's not slashing, they're not slashing the roads right to the fence line. They're not slashing the hedges and the embankments and and it's just unstable environment. They only do on a good day, about 3 to 4 hours capacity working. By the time they drive out there and drive back and do 3 to 4 hours work and then come back, which is uneconomical, where a contractor would leave his track to the nearest homestead or something like that and then go from there on, so that he makes the most of his time in operating the machine and covering the work. The council also uses flat deck slashers. That's okay, but the contractor, he done it all with his verge mower. One operator, one machine. The council are using 2 to 3 operators and watchers. When you do the economics of it all, it doesn't add up. I have gone around and looked at some of the road work they've done slashing. It's a mess. It's because what they're doing, they're not slashing all the grass to the fence line, so each year that builds up a base of weeds and bracken and other material which can become a good fire base. In early February, Seabrook Road, which was an extremely hot day, there was a fire. And of course, the boys from the council were slashing at the time. It's not it's not clear what caused the fire, but because of an extremely hot day, slashes can hit rocks and in turn cause a fire. And this is a concerning matter where the council's got procedures in place where the operators go and check their work after that time, especially in dry periods, to make sure there's no potential fire to be started. So what I'm trying to say, it's not their forte, council. This is not your forte. You need to readdress it, give it back to a contractor. You've got a set price, and they do a professional job, and they know what they're doing. Because at the moment, the rural community are paying their rates and taxes, and in the past had good roadside vision and good roadside safety factor, and a good fire hazard. At this stage, it's completely lost, and I feel that time the council readdress it and give it back to a contractor and make good of what is bad. Thank you. You want the questions, Madam Chairman? Okay, there's a major development at the IGA supermarket in West Wynyard, in Park Street area. Interesting, there used to be a disabled parking bay there once, but since the construction of this new road, there was no provision for disability members of the community to be able to park safely. On your plan, you indicated there was going to be 2 disabled parking spaces on the eastern side of the supermarket. I'd like to know from the council, why won't they put in, and when will they be put in? Would be appreciated. Second part of my question is, the relocation of the parking bay at Bruce's restaurant or cafeteria at East Wynyard. I have highlighted how dangerous it is for people with disability. It's the furthest away from the point of entry, and I think it needs, and if it was put back where it originally was, close to the building, it'd be a safe entry for people with disability to enter the premises. Because at the moment, you are making disabled people to go into on-flow traffic, and people coming out of Walker Street can't see you because you're behind the car, and it's not a safe environment. So I once again ask, can that be relocated back to the closest point for people with limited amount of walkability and wheelchair ability? Question 2. As you're aware, that the caravan park at East Wynyard is now closed since December, and there's a big demand for mobile camper sites. You have indicated that you're going to develop a football ground in this field. Where are we at? Because this is tourist season, and you good people like tourists to stay in this community, but where can they stay, and any way of speeding up the process of making Myla football ground more accessible for these campers to take part in the community? Please give me a direction. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, I might defer to my right just for the first 2 questions, and I'm happy to take the final.
Yep. Thanks through you, Mayor. For the 2 parking questions, that's still the plan for DDA parking to be provided in Church Street, and it's part of completing the works there. The DDA park at Bruce's Cafe, one of our officers is intending to talk to the cafe owners about that. Given the notice of motion that's on later tonight, I suspect they've deferred to await the outcome of that, so they know whether they're having a holistic conversation around the other concerns raised. But what is available to council is the option to have the same contractor undertake the DDA car parking marking in Church Street, and if there are no concerns around the Bruce's location, immediately undertake that work as well.
Mrs. Bradley might comment on Myla.
Mrs. Bradley, would you like to make a comment?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just to let you know that as of 2 weeks ago, the Myala Freedom Camping site is available, and so we've got people going and staying up there. We're waiting on an honesty box for people to be able to pay. That's gone in, and we're also taking payment through the Wonders of Wynyard. So hopefully lots of people are going to stay at Myalla.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradley. Moving on to Mr. Hutchison, you have a statement and some questions.
Thank you. And good evening. Freedom camping, one of my favourite topics. I just sort of had a question, and I wonder if there's a limit on the number of vehicles that can stay at the Myalla Recreation Ground, and what that limit is.
Through you, Madam Mayor. There is a limit on the number of parking bays. I think that it's 15, but I can come back to you with the number. I know that it's either 12 or 15 parking bays at that spot.
And I guess a follow-up response to that is that adequate moving forward for the region? But that's not necessarily a question that you can answer right now, but something to keep in the back of the mind. My first actual question on tonight is regards to 9.5 on tonight's agenda, so proposed meeting procedure policy updates. So why is there a limit on the number of questions that can be asked by the members of the public, and why has it been 2 questions and now proposed to be 3 questions?
Through you, Chair, Council can set their own limits, if you like, for want of a better phrase, in relation to public question time. And clearly public question time for some time now perhaps hasn't been regulated as it could have been. Our council certainly has what I'd say is far more if you like, generous arrangements than most other councils in this regard. So there is a correction, if you like, in our council's meeting procedures to more closely align with that of others. Still, I would suggest that what remains and what's before council tonight is a far more flexible and generous arrangement than what is elsewhere, but it certainly moves closer to that. But ultimately, council can set their terms around the number of questions that can be asked at their discretion.
Okay, thank you. I guess I suggested a number of meetings ago that public question time should be a set amount of time, 15 or 30 minutes, and whoever is here to ask questions should be able to ask them. So 3 questions and a maximum of 3 minutes per person is just made up. So you're right, council has a discretion to do that, and there's no guideline under the Local Government Act, only that timeline of a minimum of 15 minutes. If there's only a couple of people asking questions, I think they should be able to fill that time with that 15 minutes or whatever the time is set, with questions and responses from the mayor or management. So that's just my view on that. My second question is around discrepancies in the December meeting agenda and the December meeting minutes. So the December meeting agenda has a complete response to my first set of questions that were in writing, yet the December meeting minutes has a large section of that response missing from the document. Can council please explain the difference?
Through you, Chair, I would need to follow that up further, Mr. Hutchison, and take that on notice.
Thank you. My third question is discrepancies between the meeting audio or the meeting itself and the minutes of January. So my questions without notice at the January council meeting were not reflected accurately in the meeting minutes, and in the response or lack thereof, in my opinion, in the February meeting agenda. So this month's, the questions were not listed in detail again. So can council please explain the difference between my actual questions at the meeting and the record of those questions in the minutes?
Again, through the chair, I'd need to do some further investigation to respond to that appropriately.
Okay. My fourth question is regarding the procurement process of tenders and contracts of less than $100,000. I've been just doing some reading today, and there is nothing within the legislation guiding the Code of Tenders and Contracts that prevents the disclosure of the value of contracts. So commercial in confidence doesn't apply to the value of contracts, because for contracts $100,000 and above, there is a mandatory requirement to report these amounts in the council reporting process. So will council, in a sign of good faith, just provide the public with the basic information of how much River Road Consulting was contracted to do?
Through you, Chair, the simple answer to that question is no.
Is there a rationale or a justification for that?
Through you, Chair, that question has been asked and responded to previously.
I just stated the legislation doesn't prevent you from doing that based on arguments that this is commercial in confidence, which doesn't really apply. So just because I've asked it before and you've said, no, we can't do it, it doesn't mean that's an adequate response in my view.
Yeah, through you, Chair, this part of the meeting is not for debate. It's for asking a question and receiving a reply. Your question's been responded to. It's not an open debate. I welcome your view and your opinion, but it's not to be debated in this forum.
Okay. I guess it follows on to my statement, and I guess it feels like council is going to extraordinary lengths to prevent questioning on a particular topic. I mean, I'm not going to suggest why, but it's pretty odd when information goes missing from council meeting minutes that particularly relates to River Road Consulting and the information around their contracts. So I guess with the proposed meeting procedure policy updates, is council targeting any particular members of the community with this policy? Because some of the policy change suggestions relate to things that only I've been doing. So I guess, yeah, I'd just like to say which aspects of the proposed policy changes that I disagree with. In relation to public question time, proposed change 29A 3C, which is a question in 3 parts will be treated as 3 questions, and you're only allowed to ask a maximum of 3 questions. If multiple questions are to be asked, they are to be stated once collectively prior to a response at all. That's something that I've been in the practice of doing, and suddenly council's decided to clarify that point. In item 29A, section 1, reasons as to why a chairperson may refuse to allow a question. I appreciate that there was some grey areas, and I attempted to get some clarification, so this is council's attempt to clarify those. But I will say I disagree with points B, C, D, E, F, G, H and I. And I won't go into detail about them, but if council is going to put forward policy changes that are in response to one, maybe 2 or 3 people, I feel like that is targeting people in particular, and indirectly becomes discriminatory, because you're only reflecting on one or two people and their approaches, and that actually might have an impact on future members of the community wanting to come and ask questions who don't understand the process, who don't have an idea of what need to be done. And if they come up and ask questions, they might be refused at your discretion, Mayor, and they might not understand why. They might not feel included. They might feel excluded from the process. So I wonder, do these policy updates really reflect community sentiment, or do they just reflect a knee-jerk reaction to the way I approach this council? So my whole point in coming to council and asking questions is to participate. This says to me, we don't want Mr. Hutchison to participate, and that might be the view, or we want Mr. Hutchison to participate and other members, but in this little box that we set. And as has been stated, the legislation is not clear. So again, council is free to make up its own rules, but if it's just making up arbitrary rules on the spot, however much workshopping you've done on it, without community input, I think you take away from that important community council relationship. You actually pushed community away from decision making, pushed the community away from having their say and asking their questions. So I just ask that councillors really consider what the intent of what is being voted on here tonight, and will it have unintended consequences, and have councillors adequately workshopped it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. So we're moving now on to our planning authority items. The time is 6:36, 7. Public questions without notice relating to planning matters. We haven't received any. Public statements relating to planning matters. We have not received any. Item 6.3, there is a recommendation before you. Could I have a mover for this particular motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Hyland.
Seconded.
Councillor Roberts. Councillor Hyland, do you wish to open the debate?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. It's obviously only a straightforward application, and it's only a small shed on an existing block that also has another shed attached to it, and it meets all the statutory requirements, and so I have no problem with it, and I'd urge councillors to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Deputy Mayor Edwards.
The report has answered the representative's issues raised, and I'm satisfied with it. I will note the proposal does not include vegetation clearance or works in the adjacent conservation area, so I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against this motion? No one wishes to speak against the motion, therefore I will put the motion. I ask all of those in favour, please raise your hands. Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Ramage, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts. Passed unanimously. The planning part of our meeting now closes at 6:37. Will do, thank you. We move on to item 7, being matters raised by councillors. We have Councillor Courtney. She asked a question regarding the whistleblower policy, and there is an officer's response there. We then move on to councillor questions received in writing, 7.2, and councillor questions without notice. Councillor Courtney, you have a question without notice.
I have a question without notice, but I'm also going to take the time, just a few minutes, to respond to 2 items in the previous meeting. And I would ask that this is actually why I ran for council, so it might get uncomfortable, but please just hear me out. I'd like to respond to items from the January meeting. I received a reply on request for better whistleblower protection, and I was asked at the same time by our intrepid journalist from English Media, Mr. Hutchison, how I would deliver on transparency. So here goes. Council response to my question without notice is that we keep the status quo and use the Public Disclosure Act, that any employee who makes a disclosure is fully protected under council policy and the law. I can actually prove that is demonstrably untrue. The Act also says that a person must not take detrimental action against a person in reprisal for a protected disclosure, which means where it is not in the public interest, there is no protection. So using state public disclosure process doesn't happen when it would undermine the public confidence in the management of council, because Schedule 1P of the Legislative Act provides that consideration is whether the disclosure would have a substantial adverse effect on the management or performance assessment by a public authority on the public authority staff. I take that to mean that if the public find out something due to a whistleblower that is not in public interest because it would have a substantial adverse effect on management, that there is no cover. This is why I ran for council, to ensure good governance through transparency and accountability. And this is why, Mr. GM, taking our status quo and doing nothing for me is not an option. Whistleblowers are essential for good governance and for functioning democracy. They agitate for accountability and transparency for good governance and best use of public funds. But they are not protected in Australia. They are bullied, ostracised, victimised, traumatised, forced out, terminated, and sometimes, on rare occasions, they are pushed to suicide. What they are not is protected. I can't fix federal laws, and I thank my fellow Tasmanian whistleblower, Andrew Wilkie, for his work in that area, for his submission to the Public Interest Disclosure Amendment Review for the federal ICAC. But I can try to fix it here, for our staff and for this community. In Mr. Wilkie's submission, he notes that the Griffith University's report from the Human Rights Law Centre and Transparency International Australia branch say they are 21 areas of reform that we are needing in Australia to have proper whistleblower protection. Do councillors, staff or the GM know who Richard Boyle is? Tony Hoffman? Alan Kessing? David McBride? Witness K? Because they are whistleblowers who saved lives, they changed laws, and they were punished or are still being punished for whistleblowing. In Tasmania, we have Grace Tame, Keely McMahon, and Alicia, the young heroic woman who reported on the Ashley Detention Centre abuse. I assure you they will all agree that they were not protected, and that after making disclosures they were likely destroyed financially, emotionally and physically. Studies now show that whistleblowers have shorter lifespans, as much as a decade, as that of anybody else. There is demonstrable evidence of why state legislation fails, and this is to the point that the Public Interest Disclosure Act is sufficient, and it is not. Unfair dismissal, you get 6 months' wages, but at the end of it the relationship has broken down and you lose your job. If you report to any discrimination, the organisation can be fined $10,000 per unit for discrimination or victimisation, but that's a small cost. It's only a fine. The Ombudsman Integrity Commission must be in the public interest to get whistleblower protection, but it's not usually in the public interest. Only in the most serious cases would you whistleblow to your union or to your workplace health and safety officers, and I know that from personal experience, and that's precisely why I know you're not protected. This is important for accountability and good governance, and we fail at this at a state level. This hospital had a COVID outbreak and only 23 staff agreed to be interviewed, and 2/3 of those staff wanted to be anonymous, because in this state they do fear reprisal if they blow the whistle and call for a ref. It's not just a state issue, I understand that, it's a federal one. We found out in Robodebt Royal Commission that Liberal Senator Tudge used confidentiality client details to silence whistleblowers, those complaining that the government were breaking the law. So it's not a failing, it seems to be a strategy to shut whistleblowers up, and I don't want it, and I won't condone it for our council. During my time as employee and as a delegate for this council, I blew the whistle. I called for a ref and I asked for an independent review as I believe management were in breach of legislation. At the time, I was a carer for my grandmother and a mum, and after making that disclosure to my union and workplace health and safety, I felt no other option was left but to come to councillors directly. I was bullied, discriminated against and victimised, subsequently dismissed. None of the managers feared accountability or reprisal for the breaches because after all it's public funds, the cost of doing business. One of the managers, Mr West, now sits on Local Government Review Board, telling this council and other councils...
Point of order, Mr Chair, Madam Chair. I think this has gone a little bit too far. It's if you've got issues like that, you need to get motions up or whatever you like, but we're not going to be listen to the grandstanding of what you think you might want to do, bringing up the past, and it's just not appropriate for a general council meeting. So I'd ask to be thrown out, Madam Chair. We just got to put a stop to it.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Councillor Courtney.
Not much left.
I guess my comment will be that you have identified some personal situations there.
That is correct, and if I'm allowed to finish...
I would prefer it if you left your personal side out of it just for the moment.
Yep, not a problem at all.
And you've got a very small amount to finish?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. I've got 2 paragraphs that are very short.
Then please complete, but please refrain from including any more personal information.
Thank you, Mrs Mayor. Now we have a board member of the Local Government Review Panel saying that we can't keep staff because of wages and through lack of opportunity for advancement, because it would take some serious self-awareness to suggest that local government is struggling to keep staff due to bad management and toxic workplaces. But I have fellow councillors still telling me that staff are so scared to talk to them that they are using dummy accounts to talk to councillors about bad general managers in other councils. That is the problem. This is the problem in local government, and it is the problem with our state government. Secrecy and no accountability, no transparency, because whistleblower protection is no protection at all, is not good enough. I believe what happened to me is currently happening to Alicia from Ashley's, and I feel it's despicable. It's an innocent system failure, or is it a design that is done that way? Is it fit for purpose? I say not, and I think that's evident. So back to my question. We could take the request, as Mr Hyland has said, to public debate as a motion, but because of the history, I chose not to do that because it's not in the best interest of council to drag it back up. That was a conscious decision not to have that debate and bring this all back up. Where there is evidence, and this is all I have asked for, where there is evidence that there has been a breach, and that is what is reported, do not sack, bully, victimise or traumatise the whistleblower. Try to fix the issue. Try to conciliate and mediate in good faith, because that's good governance. That's how we get transparency and accountability, and that is why I ran for council. So I'll say it again, doing nothing is not an option. We have nothing to worry about because I'm sure this council and this general manager have nothing to hide. I will write to my local MLC, Ruth Forrest, and request that the state government change legislation to change the landscape in this area at a state level, because it's no different for state employees. The protection is aspirational, but it doesn't exist and it's not good enough. In the interim, I would like best practice in this council for our employees and our community, while the state looks at its failures in this area in protecting whistleblowers, because whistleblowers are what bring accountability and transparency. That is good governance. So doing nothing, again, is not an option.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Councillor Courtney, you have raised some issues, but I would like to say that if you have any allegations, they must be dealt with appropriately, and I ask that you make an appointment with me and the General Manager, and we will work through that.
I don't believe I made an allegation.
We'll leave it at that for the moment, but it does need to be discussed further, but not during our...
I just want to say that you just spoke very well there, Councillor Courtney. I think that I understand that it's very hard for you to talk about that. I also have my own experiences, having worked in this
Councillor Roberts, no, we're not to debate this point now. We're closing off this particular item. It was a question, it is not a motion. So no, it is, that's the end of the matter for the moment. Thank you. Okay, deep breath everyone. Are there any more questions without notice? Deputy Mayor Edwards. Yes, Councillor Courtney.
I just wanted to ask a question. The wall near the pontoon and the Wynyard Wharf fish shop, which is boarded off, what is happening with the wall there and plans going forward?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Edwards. Mr Summers.
Yep, through you, Mayor. There's some stone that's fallen out of the wall there. It's just been a time frame to get a contractor to come and fix that, but I understand that's imminent. So.
Thank you, Mr Summers. Are there any more questions, please, from the councillors without notice?
Can I take leave for a second to check on Councillor Courtney, if that's all right?
No, I ask that you just sit for with us, please, Councillor Roberts. Are there any more questions, as I have asked? No more questions. We will move on to item 8, notices of motion. Councillor Raw, you have a motion that request for traffic survey at the junction of Old Bass Highway and Dart Street. There's a proposed motion before us. Would you like to move that motion?
Yes, I'd like to move that motion, please.
Could I have a seconder for that motion, please?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Councillor Raw, would you like to open the debate about this motion?
Yeah, look, I don't think there's anything else to say apart from what's in the agenda. But look, this is a fantastic corner and a fantastic business that works out of there, and there's a lot of people that go there, which is fantastic. A lot of buses, a lot of trucks, a lot of everything all through that corner. So whilst I live there and I am there a lot at Bruce's, and really enjoy the venue, because of my role in council, I have had some residents talk to me about the congestion. So I think the safest and best way of moving forward with that is to get a survey done of the congestion, and see if there are any ways that can be improved so it's safe, or the safest it can be for everybody. And there were a couple of suggestions put in there that seem, like topical, or things that might help, like the moving of the bus stop, putting in a loading zone, or extending the no parking zones. But they're only suggestions. I know I don't have the skills in doing a parking remit or thing around parking. So, but I have put in there that I believe that nothing should be done that would take away from the business. It's an asset to our community. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to go, a wonderful place to be. So I'm just requesting that the survey be done and we get that information back. We make any changes that might make it better, and then we continue as we are.
Thank you, Councillor Raw. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion or for the motion? Councillor Hyland, did you wish to?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Look, it is it's now become a booming business out there now, and I think I should commend Councillor Raw only in the fact that she's new, has sort of asked for a survey, and that's all it is at this stage. And having frequented that place for a long time, even with the previous owners, there's always been some issues there, particularly the drop-off transport guy. He used to park behind all the parked vehicles in front of the shop at one stage, which wasn't real good. And then you've got buses picking up kids on the opposite side of the road. And with the extra traffic now, there is there's something needs to be sort of rearranged before something does actually happen. I think it's a good idea. It'll take quite a while to run through, and everyone will be consulted. I did give Rodney Walker a ring, the owner of the caravan park, today, and ask him what he was thinking, and he just told me obviously what he's probably talked to the boys about. Once he gets rid of some units there, he's going to make a few changes and probably will benefit the guys in the shop. So there's something to look forward to, and all we want to do is help those guys in business, not hinder them. So everyone will get consulted fairly and see where we go. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Highland. Would anyone else? Councillor Bramage,
Yeah,
would you like?
I'm not going to speak against the motion, but Councillor Island picked up on it, but I think we should include Rodney Walker in the survey of what he's got planned to do in there. And I say, well done, guys, for making a good little business there.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
I just want to commend Mr. Cooper and Mr. Katseeks for their business, and that it's a very fair request they made before to be quite involved in the consultation of this project. So congratulations, guys, and thank you.
Thank you. If there are no speakers against the motion, I think we need to put the motion now. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, item 9, we'll now resume the meeting now that Deputy Mayor Edwards has returned. Reports of officers and committees, the Wynyard Waterfront and Environs Master Plan final report. There is a recommendation, 2 parts to that recommendation. Could I have a mover of the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Courtney. A seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Roberts. Councillor Courtney, do you wish to speak to the motion? You don't. Are there any other councillors that wish to speak to the motion or against the motion? Councillor Roberts.
I just want to credit all the people involved in it. It's a very clear sign that the community's working together, and obviously the waterfront is a very important part of town, and the work that council has done there is just tremendous and commendable. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Highland.
Yeah, just a couple of things. It's been a tremendous project all the way through, and I think we can only look forward to a really bright future there. And obviously there are a few comments floating around that, you know, the obvious one is they can't buy a cup of coffee on the way past when they're walking, and just little things like that. But I just said you just got to hang on and let it progress a little bit and see where we need to add a few things or take a few off. And our contractor, I think, only had 12 months, did they, at least, so I understand, Mr. GM, to start with?
Through your chair, there's 12 months, certainly a 12-month review.
Yep. Yep. And so we can work through a few issues with those, but they were in charge of all the activities, and from what I am hearing, there was a lot of different activities that we're normally used to. But and obviously the big event that's coming up is the Easter. It's a national competition, I understand, all over Easter with the Oddies, so it'll be something to look forward to. And congratulations to all those that were on the working group and done a tremendous job.
Thank you, Councillor Highland. Yes, it is an exciting event that's going to be held at Easter, so something wonderful for our town. If there are no further comments, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried unanimously. 9.2, Community Activation Grants, Round 2. Councillor Raw, would you like to move this motion?
Yes, I'd like to move the motion, thank you.
Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Councillor Johnson. Councillor Raw, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Yes, I'd just like to say that I was on the committee that reviewed those applications, and there were 2 environment-based things, 2 health and wellbeing, 3 that looked at popular community events, and 1 where what they put in for, they're going to share the equipment. So it was really nice to read those submissions and support people that have those sort of values and things in our community. I think they're all pretty commendable, and it's great to see that the council can give an injection of funding that helps these groups achieve the outcomes that they want.
Thank you, Councillor Raw. Councillor Johnson, were you wishing to say anything? Your light is on. Your light is now off. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment about these? Councillor Roberts.
I just want to say that this is another example of wonderful community activation program operated by the council. The 2 grant rounds every year really do help the smaller groups and clubs operate and do projects, and it's a great initiative by council, and you all deserve great credit.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. If there are no further speakers, I will put this motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. No one's against. Carried unanimously. 9.3, our quarterly information report, infrastructure and development services.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson.
I'll second that.
Deputy Mayor Edwards seconded the motion. Councillor Johnson, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Obviously we've had 25 projects, we'll say up and about, 8 completed. The ones that haven't been completed are only just because of the delay of equipment and services and that, and that's just governed throughout Australia anyway. So operations and maintenance crews have been very busy with 11 tasks up and about. So it's once again congratulate the operation and maintenance and the whole the council staff for a wonderful job.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Edwards.
I just had a question. The low new building approvals for January, is that because of the new planning scheme and applications prior to the 13th of Feb seem to have been deemed invalid, these applications?
Who are you directing the question to? General Manager?
Yeah, through you, Chair. If I understand the question correctly, what we've probably seen in the number of development and I guess building construction, if you like, that the numbers have returned to a more pre-COVID type level. We certainly had a spike a couple of years ago in activity, but what we're seeing now is certainly a return to what I call more normal numbers through that, so our planning and building area. If I may just make one further comment. Not my place to do so, but I will. The planning scheme, I just wanted to touch on that. There is a section in this report which talks to the fact that we are now on our new planning scheme that's been approved, and we've obviously put a little bit of messaging out around that publicly and on our website and so forth. But it's a really important milestone. So all new applications that come in will be assessed against the new scheme from now.
Thank you, Mr. GM. Councillor Bramage.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a comment on the waste and recycling. I get we're down 17%. What do you think? Do you think that might be a sign of people putting recycling in rubbish and not doing it, or just one of them things?
Mr. Summers.
Through you, Mayor. Look, hard to say just on the surface level statistics. I think at the same time we had a decrease in total users of the transfer station as well, but we'd have to look a bit deeper to really see why.
No, that's fine. I just seen it there and I thought I'll make a comment. And I guess the toilet cleaning, I guess that's a damn hard one for the contractor. I suppose there's only toilet's either clean or dirty, just between one person, isn't it? And you know, there's obviously been a few complaints there regarding the cleanliness of the toilets, but I can assure you the contractor is doing the best he possibly can. And just some of them users, I'd hate to see what their own toilets are like. Thank you. I better stop before I say something I shouldn't.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. Councillor Roberts.
Just want to make a few comments about works in particular. We spoke about the grass on the side of the road, Seabrook Road, Mount Hicks, a few fire abatements. I just want to credit council immensely for their response to that. Quite often people probably think that the council is unaware and are not going to do it, but it is in the plans already, and quite a lot of the time they probably assume that council is aware of things that sometimes they are not. I just want to commend our parks department, our depot workers who do an amazing job covering such a vast area. And the second thing I want to mention is, it's been mentioned multiple times, but Anzac Park in Somerset, there has been delays there, as you've mentioned, Mayor Dunniam. I believe that we're hoping that it'll be open long weekend in March. I believe that's the information. So for anyone watching, hopefully it'll be done by then. So I must commend everyone on that as well. And so did the Premier. So congratulations, guys.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Is there anyone who wishes to make further comments or wishes to speak against the motion? No further comments, no speakers against the motion. I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.4, Policy Review, the Councillor Code of Conduct.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Could I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Hyland. Councillor Johnson, would you like to open the debate, please?
Yeah, I just think it's good to have guidelines set in place, so we're all aware of our boundaries as a council representative. Also leaves us to be transparent to the general public, and as I say, every workplace have rules, so you know we're no different to that. So yeah, you know it's a thing moving forward. Code of conduct is a very important thing and a very important topic, so yeah, we just got to get it right.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Are there any other speakers to this motion or speakers against the motion? Councillor Hyland.
I'll just add that it'll be a bit more formalised when the state government legislate their end of it, and so yeah, it'll shore it all up.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Hyland. It certainly will be tightened up with some good outcomes. Councillor Courtney.
Yeah, I was just going to confirm that this is only minor alterations until the state government best practice comes down. Yep.
Yep. Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
I was just going to say that credit to the governance of our council, because under legislation we have 3 months to look at this after the election, and that's about now. And that they will be amended, but we will look at them once the state government has formalised their new rules around code of conduct, which obviously, Mary, you were a big part of, so thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments, Councillor Bramage?
Yeah, just very briefly, after what I heard here other day, I believe the government will get it right this time, and it's took a fair while. I've had a code of conduct put against me over the years. Worthless, really. No teeth in it. But hopefully after the situation we was in prior, that we will get it right. And we can do things.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.5, the Policy Review, Council Meeting Procedures. Could I have a mover for this motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Courtney. Could I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Hyland. Councillor Courtney, would you like to open the debate, please?
I'll probably leave it for other councillors because I'm actually going to vote against it. I think that we need to go back to the community because this is about community questions, community statements, community interaction. So I'll let the others have the debate.
Okay, so you've stated your position. Councillor Deputy Mayor Edwards, did you wish to?
I want it to move an amended motion, if I could, please.
You may.
Oh, do I have to say it now? Yep. I want it to move that council place the revised draft meeting procedures to community consultation for 2 weeks.
Could I have a seconder for that motion, please?
I'll happily second that.
Councillor Roberts. Okay. Deputy Mayor Edwards, would you like to open the debate?
Yeah. I just wanted to open it up to community for those who wish to have input, for engagement and transparency, and to give the community a voice, much like my amended motion last week, just to let people know what was going on and to give feedback if they need to.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Edwards. Other speakers? Councillor Raw.
Yeah, I'd just like to probably give my slant on it. This is the second big organisation I've worked for, and both very big organisations, and they're all run by policies and procedures. And the reason why in big organisations you have those things is for giving efficiency and having a process and a way of moving on. And so I think we have to remember that you've got to look at what these policies and procedures are and work around what are the most effective and powerful ways that I can work within those policies and procedures. And I suppose my main way of working is power with, not power over, and collaboration and all those sorts of things. They're the ways that you get things done in a satisfied and, I was going to say happy, more contented way. Yeah, so I suppose I'm saying there, remember what you're trying to get and how you ask questions and how you want to move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Raw. Councillor Highland, you
Yeah, I'll just like to add a little bit there. Whilst I'm not opposing the amendment, but all the years that I've been here, we've been, this council has been, what I would say is more than fair and open in any way, shape or form to the general public that want to come along and have their say. And generally, it's questions. 99% of the questions are related to anything that's going on in the community, work-wise, works, how they can improve it or get some weed officers around and, get rid of the weeds and, and 90%, 99% of that is taken on board. But just of late, and I will say it, the questions that really can't be answered here because we've given all the answers that we can give, and the options are put forward to go further afield and higher up the ladder if you have grievances, but when they choose not to do that and then still return here, it makes life a little bit difficult. And I'm just wondering, I don't think we'll get too much community input. As you can see, the last 4 or 5 years, the amount of people that we've actually had in the gallery is very minimal to what we've had over the years. And generally, as a general rule, if we've got a big issue, and all my time on council, we've probably had 2 where we've packed the room. And we've accommodated everyone that came along to have a say. So it's sort of grossly wrong when you get accused of not giving the general public the opportunity to put their case forward. But happy to go along with the Deputy Mayor, put it out there and see what we get. I'll support the amendment.
Councillor Roberts.
I just want on record that I also will support this amendment. I'm not against changes to the meeting procedure, but I would like it to be done with as much consultation with the public and with the councillors as possible. I think transparency is important for any large organisation, and especially one in government, and I have every intention of actually discussing this as much as we can. I want on record also that I have no issues with sitting here and listening to the concerns of the public at all, no matter how long that takes. If I was unwilling to do so, I would not have ran. So thank you very much.
Councillor Raw.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether now's the time. Can I just ask a clarifying question here? Because it's very easy to say we're going to put it out to community consultation. What does that look like? Do we just take statements from people that come in? What do we do with those statements? And who makes the final decision? I mean, if we get 3 statements that are around a particular bent and 15 that are opposing, how do we decide which way this is going to go? I think it's really important that when you say you put it out to public consultation, you define your process and state how your decision is going to be made in the end, so everybody knows and that's clear.
Thank you, Councillor Raw. That very, very valid questions. Mr. GM.
Through you, Chair, well, ultimately the final decision rests with Council as to what changes you'll make. So you will assess, I guess, any feedback appropriately and then determine whether to make any changes, leave the draft as is, or make any changes as a result of the feedback. In terms of the process, look, I haven't given that too much thought, but the point you make is right. It needs to be very clear and given the time frame proposed, a very precise process. Typically, we would keep it, very basic. A document of this nature, we would do some media to alert people to the fact that this particular document is out for comment. When that feedback comes in, it will be compiled and brought to a workshop with the councillors for further discussion. But we will give further thought to the comments that you've made.
So I think then, if that's the process, the documentation that goes out that people read, I think the process needs to be on there so people understand the process.
Yeah, understood. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. GM.
And bear in mind, I should say that there are the local government meeting procedure regulations that we need to comply with. So it would not be a review, I guess, of the full document. There are certain elements that we need to maintain and keep from a statutory perspective. It's the discretionary items, and I think from the statement made earlier in the night, I think the point of conjecture is more the public question time as opposed to the bulk of the document. But bear in mind there are some legislative references we need to continue to adhere to.
Thank you for that. And relating to the comments earlier tonight, the council meeting is not the only place that questions can be asked. Every single one of us should be available if a resident or a ratepayer wishes to ask questions. So they don't need to come to a council meeting and line up all their questions. And I need to remind you that all of you should be answering those questions. So let's encourage our residents to think about the way that they want to ask those questions. So it's not just about one person, it is about a whole community. And I thank you, Councillor Edwards, for putting forward a motion that engages the whole community. Are there any further comments? No. Yes, it's Councillor Edwards, her motion. Sorry, her amended motion. Get that one right.
Just quickly, sorry about that. Just quickly, we're doing the Code of Conduct review and the Meeting Procedures review. Both of those are coming from the state government very soon, the standards that they want us to abide by.
The Code of Conduct bill and legislation is certainly being reviewed and will come to us in due course.
And the meeting procedures also?
No. So the meeting procedures is a standard review of policy that we do following each election.
Right.
There will certainly be, I guess, as a result of some of the other work that Legat and the industry are doing, there'll be some further changes to meeting procedures. So, but that could be a little further down the track. But there'll certainly be some more information, I suspect, from Legat. But it's not a review of the meeting procedures per se.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yep. No, that completely answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Bramage.
Just very quickly. It's just a pity each council couldn't have the same meeting procedures. It's just a pity the local government association couldn't get off there and do it for us, to work up something that suits everybody and valid for everybody, rather than, like we said the other day, you go into Burnley, get a Big Mac. You go into Launceston, get a Big Mac. Both the same. But you go to a council, do something, go to another council, completely different. So I just don't know where we're going to finish up.
Through the Chair, and I think in fairness to the government, and I'm not here to speak on their behalf, but that's exactly what they have done in the local government meeting procedures regulation. So that is the standard meeting procedures that we are to follow. But one of the allowances, if you like, that councils have is to be able to, vary or add additions to that, and that's where the variations come, Councillor Bramage. The suggestions that have been made to our meeting procedures as per the agenda tonight are clauses that have been taken out of other councils' meeting procedures, if you like, or public question time documents, again, which is intended to give some form of consistency rather than us developing our own. But certainly that's the origins of a number of the changes that have been made to our document tonight.
Deputy Mayor Edwards, would you like to close the debate?
Oh, sorry. Is it? Oh, sorry. Can I just ask one more clarifying question? I'm sorry. I just need to get
Please
it clear.
don't apologise, but ask your question.
Yeah. So what was coming up originally? There were 10 changes that were put there in the table. Are we putting all those 10 changes out to public consultation, or which part are we putting out to public consultation?
Through the Chair, as the motion reads, the entirety of the council meeting procedure document would be put out for comment.
It is interesting because, well, look, I don't know, because there were a couple of things in there, number 2 and number 3, and number 1. 2 and 3 were just clarifications. 1 was splitting policy and procedures. I'm just wondering how we get people to respond on those, and do we need to respond on those? Sorry.
Mr. GM.
Again, I understand the point Councillor Raw is making around how do we maximise input, how do we have greatest benefit from the process that we're undertaking. And as I said, I haven't given any thought to this process prior to tonight, so we'll give that some further thought, and over the next few days prior to, should the motion go through, we'll need to develop an appropriate engagement plan which takes into account some of the points you've raised.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Raw. Deputy Mayor Edwards, would you close the debate?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody who would like to support the motion, but I'm sure all the, with putting it out to community consultation, that, Shane will have a plan going forward for that. So thank you for supporting the amended motion, hopefully.
Thank you. I'm going to put the motion. I'm going to ask for a show of hands for this amended motion. All those in favour, please show your hands. No one's voting against this particular motion. Carried unanimously. This amended motion now becomes the motion. Is that correct? I put the motion that...
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. Yep. I need to reopen the debate, and Councillor Courtney. Yep.
Geez, I think after tonight you want me to be quiet. No, I think that it's a great idea that Councillor Edwards has put that forward because, obviously community consultation is a really important thing for us both. The community conversation started when we came in, the online meeting started when we came in, and I think this is another move towards being a better council and having community consultation on the things that affect them. So I'm supportive of it, and I think we need to be careful about, what I was saying earlier tonight, that secrecy is the enemy of good governance. So I think that to be able to put this out to the community and get their say is a really good move.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Councillor Roberts.
I just want to commend Deputy Mayor Edwards for thinking of the public. Processes like this, we're not just here for us, we're here for the public above all. And I think that it is good governance to actually consult with the public that we claim to represent. So to have a Deputy Mayor that's thinking of the public first and making sure that there's equity, we win awards for equity, we should provide it. So Councillor Courtney is correct in my opinion. Secrecy is the enemy of good management and it is the enemy of good governance. So to see that everyone has unanimously voted to actually look at this amended motion, I would like it on record. I would have actually voted against it, definitely. So to have a look at this and discuss it a little bit further is actually a really good, positive move from Council, in my opinion. So thank you, Deputy Mayor Edwards.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Deputy Mayor Edwards.
I just won't say I won't take the full credit for this. It was somebody who wanted to get in contact to talk about this, so just being open and available to hearing them. And I acted for that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Edwards. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Hyland.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say it. And it's only just of late in the last couple of debates, but I think you need to, all councillors just need to drop this terminology of secrecy and whatever. There's never ever been any secrecy around this damn council as long as I've been here. And it's the more you use it, I don't know why you use it. And if the person in the back of the room had enough gumption and would take his little butt down to the ombudsman and put all his stuff on the table, he would he would get the
Point
answer.
of order. Point of order.
Yep.
Councillor Hyland, you are not given permission to speak, Mr. Hutchison. Councillor Hyland, could I ask that you be a little careful with your wording? Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, just all right, but that's the point I want to make, and it's just starting to creep in, this secrecy bit and whatever. We just don't need it. Never had it before, and you just need to cut it out and get on with the business at hand. We've got a good council going. If you've got something to say, Councillor Courtney, speak up. Don't be afraid. But that's my point. Just leave it go. That's all I got.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Courtney, you've already spoken, so you're not able to respond. Councillor Roberts, you have spoken, yes, so I'm sorry you can't. Councillor Raw.
I seem to be asking lots of points of clarification. I am a bit of a stickler for process. The thing that we're talking about were 10 changes to the meeting procedure, and I can't see how any of those changes promoted secrecy or covered up secrecy. I just think sometimes we need to focus on what we're doing. I'm fine for going out to the public and stuff like that, but there's from 1 to 10 of those changes, there's nothing that would make anything secret.
Thank you for clarifying that for us, Councillor Raw. No, Councillor Roberts, you've already spoken. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to this motion? Thank you, Councillor Courtney.
I don't believe that I suggested that this council was secretive. What I said was, secrecy is the enemy of good governance. Just want to clear that up.
Thank you for closing the debate, Councillor Courtney. I'm going to put the motion and I'm going to ask for a show of hands this time. So, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. The motion is carried unanimously. 9.6, the Senior Management Report. There's a motion in front of us to note the monthly Senior Management Report. Could I have a mover for this motion, please? Sorry, who was that? Councillor Courtney? Seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Roberts. Councillor Courtney, do you wish to open a debate or make comment about this particular motion in front of us? Okay. Are there any further comments, or is there anyone who wishes to speak against this motion? Councillor Roberts.
I just wish to say that council management, senior management and council employees have been really busy. Myself and other councillors have been involved in a lot of meetings for community projects, and honestly it's very, very exciting times ahead, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. If there are no further speakers, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.7, our financial report for the period ended the 31st of January. The recommendation is to note the report. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Hyland. Councillor Courtney, do you wish to make comment or open debate? Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment or speak against the motion? No one wishes to speak against the motion or make further comment. I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.8, minutes of other bodies. Nil received. 10 matters proposed for consideration in the closed meeting. There is a recommendation there. Could I have a mover that the council resolves by an absolute majority that the matters listed below be considered in the closed meeting?
I'll move that motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Edwards.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. 11 is closure of the meeting to the public, that the council resolves by an absolute majority to